Welcome everyone to the GrowthWorks Network's first Thoughts on Thursday. We were just kind of debating, this is really a chance for the GrowthWorks Network, it's just over 50 professionals now, to come together to discuss common themes, debate and discuss as an industry. The idea of the presentation is we bring in hotelier leaders from around the world who can really shape their thoughts on where the industry is going over the next couple of years, but specifically I think the next few months, as we all think, individually as leaders and as businesses, where do we take things next? So we're absolutely delighted today to have John and Marc from Hilton, who will be sharing with us their take on innovation and kind of how Hilton do it, how they're managing it personally. And without further delay, I will let them crack on and take us through it. John, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, James, and hello everybody. Great to meet you all virtually. Just checking, you can see the screen as you're supposed to.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you, James, for setting up this forum, and thank you, James and Marina, for organising this series of Thoughts on Thursday. I'm delighted to be joined by Marc Lantrok, who is a good friend and colleague. He is the Director of Customer Engagement at Hilton and one of the most innovative minds I've ever worked with. So he's going to help bring to life some of the concepts that I'm going to cover through a case study or a project that he led last year. And yeah, we're honored to be invited to kick off this series today. So I'll get straight into the slides. And it's not like a big PowerPoint, it's supposed to be TED style. As you know. So while our industry is of course going through some pretty revolutionary changes right now, I didn't want to spend the whole time kind of going through all of the innovations in cleanliness and distancing that we've all been following very closely, although we'll have time to discuss that later. Rather, I just wanted to kick off the discussion and talk about a little bit of history of innovation at Hilton, a framework for thinking about innovation generally, and some practical considerations. And I said Marc's going to bring that to life through a case study. Now, as a 101-year-old company at Hilton, we do like to say that innovation is in our DNA, and that that's not just PR. It really is true when you look at the culture at Hilton and the way that innovation is weaved into some of the practices and operating procedures at Hilton, and you look at the history, the long list of firsts that the company has come up with. You really do see that innovation is in the DNA of the company. Through product innovation, like the pina colada started at Hilton, the brownie was a Hilton invention apparently, and the red velvet cake. And then in terms of technology, Hilton was the first to kind of introduce in-room TVs, room service, air conditioning. They invented the airport hotel. And this is an image of the first Hilton Central Reservations Office, which gave birth to the first CRS, which is now the lifeblood of any travel company. And most recently, we introduced, as you probably know, the digital check-in experience, where there's a map of every hotel in the network, and it enables you to select the exact room that you want, borrowed from the airline industry, of course. Digital key, so it takes that one step further to enable you to bypass the front desk and use your phone to unlock your door. And now you can even talk to the hotel and check out using your phone as well. And when we all get back to normal business, Hilton's probably going to continue to roll out Connected Room, which is the next phase of that evolution, which makes your phone the remote control of your entire stay. So it manages the lights in the room, the temperature, the TV streaming services, and it enables a complete contactless stay. Who knew that, when we set out in this project, that contactless would be such a big thing? But, we're well on the way to solving the current needs and pain points in this area. So a little bit more about culture of innovation at Hilton. So I don't know how your organizations are organized, but, our brands have dedicated teams called Customer Experience and Innovation. And their role is to continually look at needs, pain points, and opportunities and evolve the brand, products, and services. Technology also has a function empowered to look at innovation, obviously, as I just talked about. And every other function, while they don't have necessary innovation teams, they're all empowered to continually drive innovation. And that's measured through competencies. It's in our success factors, our goals. You're encouraged to have an innovation type goal. Awards and promotions criteria are looking at innovation and collaboration as competencies. The whole organization's been through a whole training exercise on design thinking and digital transformation. And there's now the emergence of many kind of formal and informal product teams that are sort of based around this agile way of working in sprints that are cross-functionally focused on a big topic. And the other thing that I think is embedded in the culture that drives innovation is a focus on diversity and inclusion. So diversity, not just in the traditional sense, but diversity of thought. And so we're encouraged when we're putting teams together to get people together who have different ways of thinking. So with that potted history of Hilton innovation, and if you want to find out more, there's more on the Hilton website, I wanted to introduce a 3x3 framework for thinking about and organizing sort of innovation in your mind, and then some practical tools to help drive innovation in your organization. So ideally, you want to anticipate the needs. Sorry about that technology problem. And of course, you can't always, as we know, anticipate every need that's coming up. And therefore, kind of having agile mindsets and being nimble and quick in jumping on a particular problem is a skill set that becomes really important. The next are pain points. So this is where generally everything's working okay. People and processes can function, but some stakeholders might be living with a pain point that could be removed. Sometimes these aren't obvious, so you need to deliberately seek them out through looking at customer feedback, ethnographic research, reviewing business processes. So an example of this is the check-in process. You know, when in the traditional hotel check-in, people went, for years, went to the front desk, lined up, waited for their turn. But when you look at it, that actually becomes a pain point, that people are wasting their time in a queue when they could be in their room and enjoying their stay. And then the third is opportunity. So if you're not, this might not be immediately obvious again, but there may be an emerging product, service, technology that you could take advantage of. And this reminds me of the saying, Henry Ford phrase about cars and horses. If I asked people what they wanted, they'd say they wanted faster horses. You couldn't really see the need for a car, but there's definitely an opportunity there. This is the hardest to pursue, but the sexiest, and it does require looking broadly at emerging trends, enhanced collaboration skills, and design thinking. And then the second bucket is what to innovate. Now, there's about probably 10 or 12 kind of key buckets of innovation, but the three high-level buckets, I think, are product, operation, and business model. So you can obviously innovate your product or service offering. This doesn't have to be something that's new. In fact, most often, an innovation is an evolution of an existing product or service. So for example, Hilton is testing in-room water filter systems to balance the need for hydration with the pain point of creating environmental waste through plastic bottles. The second category is innovating business operations, right? So to find better, cheaper, and faster ways of doing things. And a great example of this is, because it's from my history, is automating revenue management decisions. For years, people would look at data, come up with, identify trends and forecast demand, and then with that set the optimal price. And in fact, a lot of it was very manual and repetitive. And so we went through a process of sort of getting the key data points and automating that whole process, enabling more accurate, timely pricing changes and more efficiently managing the operation. And the third category is business model. So as the world evolves, data and technology become pervasive, competition is disrupted, customer needs evolve. and your entire business model could become obsolete, or a new business model could present itself. For example, the collection brands, Curio and Tapestry in Hilton, solved for the pain point of owners to be able to make a profit from some of the brands in some of the locations. The opportunity of Hilton to then grow their footprint and the product offering to customers who had growing demands and desires for more authentic, personalized urban experiences. And then in the how, innovation happens. The first I'll call accidental. This is where you don't deliberately think about a particular problem, but because you're walking around with a what-if curious mindset, you connect an experience in one area of life to a problem opportunity in another area of life. You can Google loads of examples of these, and it's really fun to do it. And one example is the Swiss engineer, George de Mestral. He was on a hunting trip with his dog, and he noticed an annoying tendency of burrs to stick to its fur and its socks. And later, when he's looking under a microscope, he effectively discovered Velcro. The second area of how is organic. This is where you implement small changes to your existing operating model to allow for innovative thinking. So for example, in your one-on-ones with your teams or with your manager, you set aside time to review ideas, to review processes, and to review products. When you look at customer feedback, you look at it through the lens of satisfaction, not just through the lens of satisfaction, but also through the lens of opportunity. So an example here is I had a one-on-one with a team member, and I was discussing with them what appeared to be a decline in productivity of the email marketing team. And we used the 5 whys technique to kind of get to the real issue was that the team was having to rework multiple times every single email campaign, multiple times. And so through discussion, we developed a proposal to do this better, to have a different iteration sequences for different types of campaigns based on their complexity and size. So we made the whole process more efficient and effective. And of course, innovation can be a managed process. This is where you deliberately carve out time and resources for reviewing current or anticipating needs, pain points and opportunities across different stakeholders. This is what the customer experience and innovation teams at Hilton do. They follow a very defined process around analyzing, prioritizing, testing, improving and deploying. So with that framework of innovation, I guess, dimensions, here are some thoughts on fostering innovation in your world, what you can do to foster innovation. It's something that everyone can do. I don't think you need to be a chief innovation officer or have a swanky innovation gallery like this one that we have at Hilton. But there are 3 kind of buckets of things that you can do to drive innovation or more innovative thinking, I think. And these have served me. They're not necessarily textbook, but they're what helped me. First, look at yourself. Look at your past experiences of coming up with an idea or a solution and trying to sell it to others. Identify and develop the skills that might have held you back. These might be, building confidence and resilience. Personally, I've recognized that I'm quite sensitive and I have this weird fear of failure. But there are ways to develop yourself and develop your own confidence and resilience, or the appearance thereof. And these are essential ingredients to innovation. There's some great LinkedIn training that I've done recently as well that really build on this, and I'll send the links to those if you're interested. Now, you might also already think that you're very super confident and resilient, and that's fantastic. But it also is important to look at how you might be perceived through other people's eyes. You might be perceived as a little bit, arrogant. So a 360 look at yourself is always very useful. Second is building a broad network of relationships. And I think key to this is trust. When there is trust, there is safety, speed, and risk. Again, 3 ingredients for innovation. And there's several courses, again, on how to build and measure your trust quotient between yourself and another person. And I've also found that allowing yourself to be vulnerable is also a very useful tool to building trust with people, and a very useful thing with innovation. seeking out diverse perspectives. So what I tend to do when I'm in a controversial project or a project that is going to have some resistance, I identify the people who are most likely to resist that. And I reach out to them and offer to buy them a coffee or lunch and have a one-on-one conversation to kind of tell them my story without any slides and to hear their immediate reactions. We don't try and solve things there and then, but what it does, it creates an immediate connection. And usually in that conversation somewhere, they will say, let me know how I can help you. And that opens the door for them to then be involved in solving the very problems that they may raise with your idea. And then in terms of processes, one thing that you can do to enable innovation every day is always be the one that insists on simplicity and absolute clarity. And this is, again, the first rule of innovation, problem solving, is to make sure you're solving the right problem, and you need to be crystal clear about what is the need, pain point, or opportunity in order to do that. So I find it quite refreshing. It's also quite fun to be the one in a meeting where, if you don't think there's absolute clarity, to insist on it. If there isn't absolute clarity, you're not clear in your mind what the plan is, what's going on, where we've come from, where we're going, then either you haven't been paying attention, which, that's number one, or there really is confusion in the group. And it's a very useful tool to be the one that insists on going back and recapping what it is that we've just said and simplifying, because again, simplification is a key ingredient to innovation. Develop a process, put it on paper. You may need to nuance it for your organization or your role, but it will include things like observe, ideate, evaluate, articulate, implement, improve, some kind of cycle that demonstrates and puts on paper and makes it real your innovation process in your organization. Something you can share with people and to start that dialogue with stakeholders. And then create opportunities to innovate. A couple of things. Ethnographic research is a fantastic way, and it's very easy to do. It's essentially where you and a bunch of people sit and watch customers, and you write down what you think they're feeling, what their frustrations might be, any observations of needs, opportunities, and pain points, and then you go back and discuss. It's very easy to do. And then the other area on this is brainstorming. When you're leading a brainstorming group, always make sure that you, or when you're in a main brainstorming group, always make sure it's in two parts. Part one is the creative side, where everything's on the table and there's no judgment allowed. And then part two is where you bring in the logical reasoning to evaluate all of the ideas. So yeah, with that introduction to Hilton and some sort of innovation framework, I'm going to hand over to Marc, who led this project last year. He's going to talk about a real-life case study where a lot of these points can be brought to life. So over to you, Marc.
Thank you, John. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Okay, great. So thanks again, John, and James, thank you so much for having me on this group as well. It's exciting to meet everyone on this lovely Thursday. So like John said, I'm going to talk about a little bit of the case study that we did. Well, it was an innovation project in Hilton, in Europe, that really started pushing the boundaries in terms of how we dealt with customers on the email platform. Back in 2017, I think it was, it seems a long time ago, we obviously knew too well. Actually, do I need to do the slides? John, could you switch slides? There you go. Thank you. We knew that something called GDPR was looming on the horizon, which was a big concern. It was effectively a risk to see what we could do. And we wanted to make sure and be proactive in terms of getting things done correctly, and we were ready to combat whatever GDPR brought with it. And we started looking at some of the areas within the business. So in Europe, we really wanted to understand how could we even supercharge our email engagement rates with our customers whilst we were heading towards to the looming GDPR line. So we started looking at an innovative framework. We defined some new, next slide please, thank you. clear objectives. We sourced up, cooperation partners, reviewed ideas. We acknowledged that email opens had to be increased by 20% base points. And we had to make sure there was a significant ROI behind it as well, compared to some of the other internal benchmarks that we had. So we started to understand what needs to be done. We also knew that open rates correlate to clicks, and clicks correlate to higher revenue as a return as well. So we really wanted to strive in terms of do something different, really, and start looking at how can we start looking at improving the basis, the platform, the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, which was at first quite a difficult dilemma to have. But then the most powerful asset that I think I had to me was really going through my network. Next slide, please. And I think this is something people really sort of don't always think about. And you've got your external, you've got your internal networks. And really sometimes when you're doing your discussions, your coffee, having a beer in the pub, and we were even in the pub quiz with some of the DMA members, is asking people what they do, or putting the challenge out to them and see what kind of answers they come up with. And in doing that, I actually found out there was this tiny little outfit somewhere in the midst of Putney. It was literally like a living room. They were all planted in. But they were creating an AI, machine learning, natural sounding subject line tool. So effectively, I got to know these guys, brought them in, start talking to them to see if it was feasible to do some concept and some testing with these guys. And it was incredible in terms of being able to talk to such a young outfit, be able to work with them in terms of molding what could be a realistic scenario for a company like Hilton. And we brought them into the office. We looked at the commercials. We really liked the intuitiveness of the product. We asked them to make some changes, and it was incredible. And we then, with John, as mentioned, that we already got innovation in our DNA. That obviously helped. The culture was there, the progressiveness was there, the mindset as well. Team members have a mindset of, I want to do something better. I want to progress with something. I want to fix this problem. And that worked really well. So we contracted a 6-month period of proof of concept with this small outfit. We looked at 2 key areas within Europe to focus on generating artificial intelligence, well, AI subject lines to our email capabilities. We gave them a little bit of history as well, so we could, from day one, we could have the AI and the machine profile our customers, our audience, to speed up the process. And after, I think, 6-week period, we were within 6 weeks, we already knew that we were outperforming human subject lines. Again, that was an amazing feat to see. It was really exciting, being nearly daily looking at the data, looking at the comparisons, the KPIs. We could see that AI was the way to go forward. Now, with that came some cultural differences and possibly challenges as well. As soon as you started talking about AI and what we were doing, there was, looking back, there were some people who were naturally fearing AI. They're saying, "Oh, this is going to happen now, and you know, our jobs are going to go." And it was for some people a big moment. So that's where you also have an opportunity, and being a responsible leader, to go out and talk about and relay any fears, to say AI is going to happen. You're absolutely right. But rather than it's overtaking work and your role, your responsibilities, it's actually here to complement the stuff that you do. In fact, it's going to take away things. that you do not want to do, probably. A good example is subject lines, because what we have done in the past in Hilton, and I'm going to put my hands up here, is we tend to really look at subject lines as probably less scientific in terms of how we produce them in the past. There was little or no science behind it. And it's really the first thing that people see, right? This is the split second you have in an inbox to make an impact. And we tend to give it to probably the most junior person in the team. So in a way, this tool helped a lot in terms of how we wanted to go directionally whilst we were heading towards the GDPR deadline. So this comes just back to the other slide. And this also is really important. And storytelling. We all execute very well. We do our jobs very well. And sometimes we forget about actually letting people know what we do. And this is really, really critically important when it comes to innovation. You need to live and breathe it. You need to believe in what you're doing. And I really believe also you need to have a single owner really to look after this project. As soon as you have multiple owners, it could potentially become diluted, the responsibility and the accountability. Now, storytelling, that reached far in Hilton with this project. You know, I made sure that people like John, my stakeholders, were completely always informed about the latest performance numbers. If there was a milestone, or if there was something that was really good to see, I would always message people like John and his team. Now, also my senior leadership team here in Europe, Middle East and Africa, I made sure that when they had their presentations and they were doing their own leadership team meetings, their executive team meetings, I made sure that we could have a slide in their pack as well. So we were getting to talk about this innovation at all levels within the company. And I think that distribution is really important whilst you're project managing the story. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. So this is really showing you what kind of things that we were seeing happening using AI, you know, literally human-sounded subject lines. The actual gray dots represent the click to open rates levels, and they are literally the human ones. The AI machine likes to test while it's profiling what works, what doesn't work. It looks at semantics, it looks at the passion, the length of the subject line, how often we use certain words in terms of fatigue. And you can see it's continuously testing and calibrating over time. And then it picks the winner. So you can literally track all the KPIs behind each of the test email sends, and then it will recommend, please go and use this one for this email campaign. And then that's really the blue bundled ones, which are sort of the top end of the graph. Sorry, the orange ones are the AI tests, which are, I think, about 60 of them in total. Next slide, please. And then it comes to no surprise, because of the level of communication, getting people involved, like John says, and making people contribute to the project and believe in what you're trying to do. Obviously, not all innovations will work, but it really hangs on the success of managing and being, you know, ultimately passionate about it. The concept was actually a huge success, and John was very close to it. He was actually my manager, and he was the person for me to convince that this is the right direction that we needed to go to. And the thing that we did after creating a formal relationship with this vendor was we went global. So we went beyond Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And with AI, it's all about scalable. You know, it's small tweaks on an open percentage or a click-through percentage, but a small click on a multi-million audience count is huge. It's a huge impact. So thank you, John, even to this day. Thank you for saying yes. And in summary, I just put in a couple of bullets. Like I said, it's so important to find a single owner that has that problem, is fixated on that problem, you know, walking to a supermarket and go out to the corner shop and you're thinking about it, you're living it. What can I do better? And just trying to make it a successful reality for your company. It's very important. I think simple and best. Simple is best, and keep within budget and time period, which is it's obviously obvious, but it's something that we need to make sure. Innovation can be overly complex, and they can just literally fall to pieces. So try and keep it simple. Bring the concept to life. Again, believe in it. Storytelling techniques. I like the hero storytelling. Hollywood does that a lot. You start there in terms of emotions, then the world crashes around you and you think it can't get worse. It does. But at the end of the film, you literally come up there higher than where you started. So when you're doing your pitches, your slides, your storytelling, start thinking about that. What is it? And there's no shame of talking about things that are falling apart, as long as you've got answers to it, and you can show that there are ways out of this dilemma. Something that we notice in big companies such as Hilton, sometimes innovation could work even in the smaller markets. I always argue the case that in Europe we've got Malta, which is we've got one hotel, small island. It completely restricts anything. So if anything does go wrong, it's very restricted. And also from an organization point of view. So if you're in a regional office, smaller office, they tend to have teams which are a lot narrow, but very close to the leadership team. So they're a lot more agile, so they can get quick yeses, probably by shouting across the desk to a senior person, as opposed to a big HQ, corporate HQ, where you probably need multiple people, different teams, and everyone needs to jump in. And then have a what-if mindset. Like John said before, also is, in your day-to-day endurers, just think about why would that happen, and could that be changed? And I find a good example. I was being chased by an NFC device on Instagram, literally an advert to access a protected network. And I thought, okay, let me talk to this vendor because I like the tool, I like the product. And I had a chat with them. We had a conversation, and we're now looking at potentially using it as a contactless device in our hotels, where you can use NFC and QR code enabled phones to connect with us. So it's just things that are happening around your day. There are huge opportunities always around you. It's about converting them. And then, yes, the innovative culture in the workplace is so important. We do need to have our leaders to open up doors, to be fully supportive. Lucky Hilton is like that for us. We've done hackathons, we've done Dragon's Den style of pitches where there's a ring-fenced budget for innovation. And then every quarter, if you think you've got a good idea, you get 15 minutes to pitch to our leaders, and we could potentially win some funds to test and try the innovation or the product that we want to do. That's it. So back to John for final thoughts. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mark. Well, that's a great example, and thanks for sharing of, a less obvious innovation that solved for a need created by GDPR, a pain point in our operations efficiencies, and in a way that was organic and managed innovation process. So thank you for that. And yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties. Hand back to James.